Hello and welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. And you know how I like to get my videos started all the time with a moment of silence for the addict who still suffers, followed by the serenity prayer. Alrighty, well, moment of silence, if you will. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, today I just wanted to kind of talk to you about something that I read in a book that has to do with traumatic experiences and how it affects your oneself in their daily lives and I just want to kind of touch on that and give you a little history of my traumatic experiences and how that has been a factor or an influence of some sort in my life and my addiction. So it is the particular book that I was reading is called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate and Daniel Mate. It's a co-written book. I guess it's a father and son thing. And but anyway, they talk about how things that happen in your past is an imprint on how you live your life in a sense. And in other words, things that happen when traumatic experiences that you go through as from childhood into your adult life, there's always something that your body neurologically goes back to exactly that traumatic experience. In a sense, one of the ways he described it was as a child when during the Holocaust and World War II era, he had to be displaced from his mother and go live with an aunt, and his mom stayed back, and they had a separation of a few months or whatever. And then when he got reconnected with his mom, he wasn't as there was no interaction there of right away. So he had this disconnect factor in his life as a child. So as he got older, he used this scenario where he had gotten back from a flight from some speaking event that he had to do, and when he got back, he expected his wife to be there to pick them up, and when she texted, said that she was not, she hadn't even left the house yet, well, he, threw a fit and took a cab home, and then he was angry and enraged because she wasn't there. So what he explains is that because of the imprint that he had as a childhood with the disconnect from her mother, that she wasn't there, that it had some sort of an effect of how he reacted to his wife not being there when he needed her. So that disconnect, his neurological mind in a sense, automatically reverted back to that particular moment of his childhood. So that's why he got enraged. That's why he was distant from her when he got to the house. And, he wasn't real. He said it took him 24 hours to finally, come back to his senses in a sense. And it took him 24 hours of fitting, I guess, is how he explained it. So, when you go through stuff like that, you want to revert back to what feels comfortable for you. And for him, the disconnect from his mother as a child, and when he got reconnected with her, he didn't automatically see the mom and hug her or whatever, he distanced himself for a minute until he was comfortable enough to engage. And however long that took, I don't know, but it took him 24 hours as an adult. So my point is that that's where he felt comfortable in his mind and in his neurological brain. The first thing that came out was distance yourself and you'll be okay. So it took him that long. And so I read that and I'm thinking, okay, well, in my life in particular, some of the things that I've experienced as a child, I would, if something was going on in my life as a kid, and I either got heartbroken or my dad was being an asshole to me and beat me up or whatever for a minute, spanked me or whatever you want to call it, and then I felt that anger towards him and that, how could you do this to me? You're supposed to be my guy, you know what I mean? And you're over here jacking me up, what's up? And, well, as an adult, when that happens, then I revert to what's comfortable for me. So when I was a kid and those things were happening, the only way that made me feel good was to use drugs or drink alcohol. And at an early and young age, that's what I did to mask those feelings. And they were masked at different levels. Sometimes, I would get excuse my language, I would get all fucked up. And, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I'd just, take a hit. One hit was good, boom, it got me relaxed. It got me to where I was at. I wasn't thinking about shit, and I was just, it settled my stress down in a sense. So, but as an adult, I would do the same thing. If anything was happening in my life, I lost my wife, in a divorce and that sort of thing, and that was heavy traumatic for me, so I emotionally was detached from the world, so I was just in this isolation, and the only way to mask that feeling of depression and sadness and isolation was to use. And I would use, and the more I didn't want to feel like that, the more I used. And so that imprint of the reaction of a traumatic event as a child stayed with me as an adult. So when I was an adult, I would do the same thing. And as a child, I didn't recognize the fact that, hey, you're doing too much, or you're hurting yourself in a sense because this is not good for your body. As a child, I didn't know that because as a child, I witnessed all the males in my family doing that thing. I witnessed them always drinking and always doing drugs. And then when I did it myself as a child, I figured that, okay, well, they're doing this to feel like I'm feeling. No wonder they're doing it. So I thought that it's normal. For me, that type of activity was normal because I saw it every single day as a kid, from sun up to sundown. And no matter what I was doing, what I was involved in, if I wasn't in school and I was with the family in any way, shape, or form, there was always going to be alcohol and drugs involved. So I just believed that it was a normal thing to do. And when it made me feel the way I did, and it made me feel a sense of relief from what I was literally feeling and afraid of feeling, I kept doing it repetitively. I would do it a lot, and I found myself doing it more and more. And, but also at the same time, I'm trying to do it in a way where nobody knows that I'm doing it. So, you become this master at disguise in a sense, and manipulation, so that nobody knows that you're doing it, and nobody knows that when you're sober. I'm having to be this person that I'm not, so I have to act like I'm tough and act like I'm okay, but inside I'm just like dying because I'm unhappy and I don't want to be there, because I don't want to go through the whole effects of my dad being an alcoholic and a drug addict and not knowing what the fuck he's going to do and how he's going to pop off to me, my brother, my sisters, or my mom. So for me, the isolation from the family was like all the time. And then when I'm out there, and then my mind's just going and going and going, I just start using. And then I'm starting to do things that are not legal to get the things that make me feel good. And so as an adult, I started doing the same thing. You know, if I would get into any type of situation where it was traumatic for me, and there was some sort of fear or pain involved, then I would pick up a beer or do some drugs to get that feeling away, and I would keep doing it if I kept feeling that feeling. And the only time that, I can remember as an adult not feeling those feelings were if I was engaged in my workout, exercising, or if I was engaged in work, earning a living. And so if I had any free time in between, then I think those thoughts would come up for some reason. I don't know why or how or anything like that. I just know that it was a constant thing that was always reoccurring in my freaking brain. And the only way I knew how not to think those things was to use, because I've been doing it since I was a kid. And so it is it's a terrible disease, but it's a mind, a brain disease that if you think that it's normal and you've learning this as a kid, that you think that that's the normality, it's hard to reprogram your brain to think differently, because no matter what you do as an adult, and no matter how many people you talk to, or how many things you read, or how many videos you see on different types of traumatic experiences and drug addiction, it's always there. The triggers are always there. And for me, a trigger could be anything. Just if I just smell something that takes me back to that particular day, then it automatically, my mind starts thinking about that. And it's like, as a sober addict, I have to start doing things in a different way, because I know that if I go to my comfortable spot, if you will, to my normal spot of comfortability, it's going to be to use alcohol or drugs. And I know now I can honestly be here and tell you that I can recognize those things, and I can recognize the pitfalls of what not to do. So I got to set these healthy boundaries around me in my life so that I can continue to have a sober and positive life in my recovery. And there's a lot of things that I do, and I change up a lot because because I get bored. And I know if I'm bored and just sitting there doing nothing, I know exactly what I want to go do. And that's to go, just, to use and just to, so that I'm not there feeling lonely and isolated and bored. And I'll start, I'll pick up a book and I'll start reading. Or this is exactly why I do this podcast, is because it allows me to stay engaged in my sobriety, number one, and it allows me to do my service work. That's what I call it. My service work is to, share these stories and of my experiences, and hopefully that maybe somebody can resonate with what I've gone through, and maybe it can help them. And So it is just one of the many things that I do, and you know, sometimes I like to always change up my routines and my exercising and stuff. I mean, I've done that. That was one of the positive things that I like doing, is that I would try different routines of different people I would read up on, and a lot of like the Mr. Universe guys, you know, they all had these workouts, you know, like Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman or Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, they would have these workouts that they would do, and I would mimic those workouts, and I would change them up. You know what I mean? So, you know, one month I would do all Dorian Yates stuff. The other month I would be doing Ronnie Coleman stuff, and you know, Arnold stuff. You know, it just, for me, it was this sense of happiness, a sense of a euphoric feeling that I would get from doing these things that these guys were doing in a positive sense, and seeing the results in my life. So, you know, it was just really cool for me to do that. And, you know, it helped me stay engaged in my sobriety, and it helped me stay away from the unhealthy boundaries. And so setting healthy boundaries and understanding how the traumatic experience of your childhood can imprint and stay there, stagnate in your life until something comes up that it brings it back just like that. And it happens all the time. So, you know, it's something that it's like a default in a sense in your brain chemistry. I don't think that you can change it. In a sense, you can't change the default, because it's always going to be there, because those were the first experiences that you had in your life. So, but you can change the interaction of those experiences when they come up. You know what I mean? That's the good thing about it, to say, you know, you don't have to stay stagnant in that deep dark hole of despair that you get into in your addiction, whatever it may be. But there's always a way to change your mindset and thinking, and it's like always reprogramming your mind to a different, you know, a different scenario. Just like, you know, I would, you know, re-engage in my workout with different people's workouts, even though, you know, they all are doing bench, or they're all doing curls, or they're all doing, you know, some sort of exercise, and they're the same exercises, but in their own way, it differentiates a little bit. And so that's what I enjoyed, is that I can do my bench, but I can do it a certain way that, you know, Dorian's bench is different than Arnold Schwarzenegger's bench. You know what I mean? Because some of them are, for example, are doing a negative and a positive. And when you're doing a regular bench workout, you're just racking up the weight. You know what I mean? It's just a repetitious motion that is coming up and down at the same speed, just about. Well, when you get and change it up, like I would get Dorian's workout, and he'd do like a negative, and then, which is bringing the weight down slowly as you can, and then bam, just popping it up as quick as you could, and then slowly bringing it down so that you can get that full effect of the negatives of that repetition. But anyway, it's examples like that. For me, that was enough to change the chemistry thinking in my brain, to say, hey, you know what? I enjoy working out again. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't just get bored and just get to this plateau and not do it anymore, or you know, stuff like that. So I use those analogies and those types of things in my daily life, in my recovery life, and so I do different things. Like I'll do these videos for the podcast, or I'll read different books, or I'll attend, instead of attending just one meeting a week, I'll do 10 meetings in a week, or you know, I'll engage in a couple of peer support groups, or instead of just doing all NA meetings, I'll do all AA meetings for the week, or I'll do, you know, one AA, one NA, and then just different types of 12-step programs. I won't just stick to one. So I'll do a little bit of one, do a little bit of another, and then I'll talk to different people. So that I may have, because it's okay to have, one or two, three, four, maybe four sponsors, and because you don't have to stay stagnant with just one, because I believe that everybody's stories are different, and I believe that we're all prophets of addiction in our own way. We all have experienced something that was negative and traumatic, and brought back something out of that was positive in a positive way in your life. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's like knowing right from wrong. You know what I mean? And I believe that those type of stories of people who have been there and who have done that, who have been in the midst and dark holes of addiction and have came out of that and had some sort of sense of sobriety and stayed there and maybe relapsed and maybe came back, and but all of those are real life experiences that can help somebody, because the doctors and the medical and the scientists, they don't know. That's not part of what they learn. You know what I mean? You're getting things that happen, things that are making people better from the forefront, from the trenches of the world of addiction. And, for me, I can sit here and tell you all the traumatic things that happened to me, and I can also sit here and tell you all the times that I've been sober and how many years that has been. Sometimes it was just a couple of weeks, sometimes it was a few months, and sometimes it was just years and years and years. And I'm excited to be here today, telling you these things as a sober addict. And but I pay I don't take anything for granted, and because I know that in one split second I could be back in the world of addiction just like that. So it is something that is attainable for every addict in the world. I believe that. And it is just something that you're going to have to know that there's got to be work behind it, because it's not something that you just, this is a disease that is unlike any other disease. This is a disease that nobody likes to talk about, and nobody likes to deal with. And you know why? Because there's no cure for it. That's the thing. It's not a cure for a disease like the one we got. Addiction is a disease of the brain that is uncurable. But it can be remedied in a healthy way. That's the beauty of it, is that you can physically and mentally do something about that disease that can allow you to live a healthy and prosperous life and a happy life. So it is, that would be another, storytelling segment, if you will. But the thing is, what I like about these stories is that these are real life stories. This is not something that some, Hollywood, writer just scripted up and threw together and somebody's reading it. No, these are real life stories from real life people who have been traumatized in some sort of, in some way, whether it was a big traumatic experience or just a small one. But then nonetheless, they're real and they're raw. And for me, I believe those are the prophetic stories that engage with people, because real people that engage and real people have those type of problems. And it's not only us here in the United States, it's everywhere. And it's not only us, the Hispanic people, it's all races. You know, world of addiction is not discriminatory against nothing or anybody. No matter how old you are or what color you are, addiction gets a hold of everyone. And how you deal with that addiction, it determines on how your life will become. And hopefully your life can become, you know, a good thing, and hopefully you're able to get it into the sober community. And for me personally, I stay engaged in my recovery community, and I stay engaged in my faith-based community, because without those two things, I will be back in the streets using and abusing, and there's no guarantees in that world. So it's a limited world out there of time, and I'd rather be in the sober community. I'd rather be in my faith-based community and living my life happy with my family and just enjoying, you know, the later part of my years, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm not a young dude anymore, so I want to see my daughters, you know, live their life, and their kids live their lives. So you know, I gotta be there for them, and if I'm engaged in that dark, deep hole of addiction, then there's no way I can do that. And so I am grateful that I'm here talking to you today sober, and I give kudos to everybody along the way who has helped me, and to my man upstairs. You know, that's my higher power, and that's what I believe in. And so I just want to thank you guys for watching my videos. I would please, if you would please hit the subscribe channel, hit the like button, you know, leave me a comment. I'd greatly appreciate that. I could use all the help I can get. You know, I'm just out there, an addict, trying to spread the message and do his due diligence in his service work by giving away what has helped me, and I'd like to share that with the world. So if you would, you know, I like to give my email out at the end of the segment so that I can, if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, I will. And if I can't, I can navigate you to some resources that have helped me along the way. And my email is joelscorpflow@gmail.com. That's JOELSCORPFLO@gmail.com. And I also like to give a couple shout out to a few of the meetings that I attend around town in the San Antonio, Texas area. So it is the Goliad group in the southeast side of town, the Club 12 in the north central side of town, the Winners Club in the northwest side of town, and the Esperanza group down in the west side of San Antonio. And so if you know, feel free to attend any of those meetings, and look up the websites and stuff like that. They're great people out there. I know people in all these different locations, and they're great people. They won't turn you away. They'll definitely give you the help and the love that you're looking for, I'm sure. And another thing, if nobody hasn't told you today that they care about you or they love you, you know what? I care and I love you, and I hope to see you here next time. And I hope to see you in the recovery world, brother, sisters. Alrighty, well, till next time, when the smoke clears, I am the Recovery Plug. Bye.